Here we are. Hello, I'm Brian. That's Michael. Michael, hello.
Hello, Brian. How's it going?
It is going extraordinarily well.
I love hearing that. I love it.
Yeah, me too. It's rainy here today. I think it's going to be rainy all week, but that doesn't dampen my mood. I'm that excited to talk with you in this episode and all of those things.
Is it a good rainy? Sorry, I just gotta is it good rainy? Is it like that inspiring kind of like creative, moody rainy where it's like we're gonna get all philosophical and like, should I make tea?
I've been listening to The Cure all day, like just that kind of thing. Just really, I can't wait to just to explor the depths of our creativity today.
Perfect. I'm here for it. it.
I appreciate that. So you should probably introduce yourself like a real podcast so that before the listeners are like, what is happening here?
Well, my name is Michael Chan. I go by Chantastic a lot of places on the internet. And then any place that I can't get Chantastic, I just refuse to participate because that's the way that I am. Yeah. And I don't know. I've done some things. I don't know if many of them are particularly noteworthy, but if you, if you're a React developer, I, for about 2.5 years, did a podcast called React Podcast. I still hope to get back to it, but I'm kind of taking a gap year while I figure out some other stuff in my life. Then recently I've just been, just having the time of my life hanging out with people in a Discord that I started around React Podcast and just learning so much stuff from awesome people. So that's, I think we just got the Discord URL. So I'm pretty sure it's at discord.gg. I think that's what it is, /lunchdev. I'm going to test it out right now.
You would know more than I would know.
It's the type of thing that I should have known coming into this conversation, and wow. I just admitted it. Yes, that's it. Discord.gg /lunchdev, and really, really smart people there. We do like little local streams and just learn together. I think, with all the Next announcements that happened recently, I'll say recently, not knowing exactly when this is going out. We're going to be doing a bunch of stuff, just discovering, how they integrated server components and like all the cool new stuff. So that's kind of what we do. What I'm excited about right now, just working in that community.
Okay. So I feel like you've probably answered a lot of questions about, let's call it we will call it a hiatus for React. Is it coming back? Do you feel like, I don't really know. I like that, by the way, it just, you hit 123 episodes, 1, 2, 3, and then called it quits. I thought that was a great number. Just like, ooh, that's perfect. Good job.
Is it? I didn't put that together until literally right now.
Well, we do our homework here.
I like that. Yeah, no, that was very intentional on my part. I wanted to get to a nice, a nice clean number, and then just pause without saying goodbye. It's, as you know, podcasting is like a lot of work.
Yeah.
And it's like it's a really big challenge, and I think that the podcasts that really make it are those that have figured out the sponsorship thing. And I was working with this really amazing network called Spec FM. They had Design Details on there, Does Not Compute, like a bunch of really Tools Day, a lot of really cool podcasts. And they just gave me full control, but then managed the sponsorship part of it, and it was awesome. I loved it. But sadly, they decided to kind of shutter, and it was just kind of things were changing. Coronavirus really changed the way that people consume podcasts, which kind of introduced a lot more work than we were doing, and it was just kind of like a mess. And it was like, what? It's probably time for us to move on to other projects that we wanted to do. And I kind of felt the same, and because I think one of the things that's really challenging about podcasting is you do this thing and you're talking with all these awesome people, with the exception of today. Today you're stuck with me, but you're talking with all these.
I thought you were saying that about me. I was like, wow, that's aggressive. We just met, but all right.
No. I'm talking about all the other awesome people that you have on this show when I'm not here. So but we're filling a spot, I guess. So I I had this thing that happened where I was just every week I was like learning from people, and I had no extra time between like, producing the show and my job to like actually do fun stuff. Like I had all these like, learning resources that I wanted to make, or like, I love teaching people, or like talks, like product ideas randomly. And it was just, I couldn't do it. And so I kind of just, decided, what, I really want to get more involved with community. I miss that hallway track in conferences where I'm just hanging out with people, learning what they know. And so that's the spot that like Discord filled for me. And it just, after a while, it kind of like became this thing that, you know, I don't know. It's really nice to just be around a lot of people, especially over the last like 18 months when we've been, physically around nobody. Um, and so I don't know. I kind of just gave myself the freedom to be like, you know what? I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm doing this other thing now.
Yeah. No, I get it. I mean, we just for this, and I forget how many episodes we've done. I think we must be at like 70 or maybe 75, but
Nice.
Thank you. But like there's a whole team, and Kate, the producer, and then she hosts plenty of episodes too. Like she does all the actual work, like all the stuff you're describing. Like she's the one booking guests, and I make the same joke over and over again. Like I'm just talk. She even will put together notes that I ignore and then get yelled at later for like, why did you? Like I did all this stuff and you just started talking. I go, I know, but there are other hosts who will follow the script. But anyway, yeah, I mean, it is for sure a full-time job.
Yeah. Kate, you're a hero, by the way. I'm just calling that out.
No, I agree wholeheartedly. So, okay. I mean, I again, I get it. I think like, there's also that pressure to produce, which like, if you're not, either you're not feeling it or for whatever reason, like sometimes there is a break. Like it's when we had Wes and Scott on from Syntax, it was like one of the first things I asked them was like, how do you keep cranking these out? You know, like, what do you, their answer was, I'm paraphrasing, but it was like, well, we just kind of talk. And frankly, we don't take it all that seriously. I mean, or at least the business part. They take the quality of the episode seriously, but not so much the sponsorships and all that stuff, which I admire.
That is one thing I do wish. Oftentimes when I was like, producing React podcasts, I did often wish that I had a show in that format where it was just like me and my best friend, like talking about whatever. Like there's like, I'm not saying that that's any easier, like from a from a structure perspective. There's still a lot of planning that goes in, but I think that the parts that are difficult are like, they're different parts, right? And like for me, it was like I was always stressing out about like, finding somebody, making sure that like all of the schedules lined up, and that we would have episodes to like fill all the spots. Whereas if it's just you and someone else that you're in business with, it's like, okay, we have a standing meeting at this time and we're going to talk about the next thing on our list. And it's a very different type of show to produce. And I don't know, I envy that at times.
Yeah, agree. I mean, that's one of the things that anytime you have a podcast that's mostly guest based, like you have to book those guests and hope that they show up when they say they will and all that stuff. And we've been really lucky. Most of the time that happens. But sure. I mean, there's a whole, I don't know if there were no guests and we were just talking, like it was just me talking into a microphone about, like that would be weird. I don't know. I for sure couldn't do that.
That's true. It's definitely, I think that type of show, like the different challenge is keeping your audience engaged for a longer period of time. Because I think one of the things that's really interesting about a guest-based show is that they, you're constantly pulling people in with like topical interests, right? And so like there's always that kind of, you're always doing some level of outreach just by virtue of having someone who knows something like talking with you for, whatever amount of time, versus like having to kind of like always be coming up with that. And so you kind of have to really develop a really big core community, um, in order to like kind of propagate a show that's just, two or three or four people, talking with the same people every week.
Sure. Sure. Which is a great segue. That's what you've done with with lunch, right? Like there is a community there, and I assume there's more than 4 people. Tell me more about that. Like, what's the purpose? How did it start?
So it happened kind of in a funny way. I have always been, there were a handful of episodes that I had done with Chris Biscardi, and who runs Party Corgi Discord, and we'd had a couple conversations about community, and like just over and over again, this was coming up. There was this Chase Jarvis, video clip from one of their podcasts, and just talked about how like, no anything that was meaningful was ever done without first starting like focusing on community. And it just kind of got like, this was just rattling in my head about like, community, because I've always been very like, I'm just going to sit in my room and I'm going to do a thing and then I'll like share it. And honestly, like it scares me, the idea of like putting something out into the world and then demanding that other people show up for it. Right? Like it's a lot easier to just be like, I put this thing out and I don't really care. It's like very safe to, whatever, I like it, like, whatever. And so that idea of like, I'm going to create a space and it's going to feel empty for a really long time until, people start fleshing it out, was very scary to me. And I probably would have never done it if it weren't for Joe Warren, who hit me up after an episode one time and was just like, hey, what's up? Like, where's the React podcast community? And I was like, you're in it. It's just DMs with me. And he's like, well, here's the deal. If you start something on Discord or whatever, I'll show up. And, man, he did. And he brought a lot of really great people from the React Dallas meetup, which is a really great meetup. I definitely, if it's online, so check it out online. React Dallas, really great meetup, really kind folks, and I can vouch for them because so many of them kind of like flooded, the React podcast Discord, and we started like with a really good core group of people who, are like kind and curious and fun. And it just really kind of got the ball rolling in the right direction. And I think even today, it's been really awesome to see those characteristics of people continue on, and we just have like really, we're able to, I guess like a litmus test is like recently we were able to talk about like Web3 and like nobody, was yelling at each other or telling anyone else that they were stupid. And it just felt like, hey, you know what? Like this, we can have constructive conversations about even things that just feel like there's no way you could have a constructive conversation about right now. And yeah, I'm just in love with it right now. But yeah, to your original question, so we started by just doing what I would call like listen parties, where Thursday, the day that React podcast episodes went live, we would get together in like lunchtime on, in Mountain Time, because that's where most of the community was, the React Dallas community. And we would just over lunch listen to the React podcast episode, have a little bit of a chat afterwards. And, it was really great. And that turned into people being like, hey, I have this thing that I'd like to share. I'm like, I've never done like, presentation or streaming or anything like that, but I'd feel comfortable doing it here. Like, are you free Tuesday at lunch? And so it just became this thing where we were just kind of repeatedly like meeting and learning from each other and like hearing these, not fully polished, but like, really interesting ideas. And I just, it's something that really excited me. The opportunity to see people in an environment that didn't have to be like polished and perfect, or like where they were concerned about, portraying themselves right, because they, had the safety of a community that was just going to like, be excited for them sharing no matter what. And yeah, I'm like just blabbering on about this, but that stuff is just really, really made 2020 like exciting and bearable year for me, and or 2021. What are years anymore?
Yeah. As long as either if either one of them or both of them were bearable, then that's a huge accomplishment. I would think a huge accomplishment.
That's true. Yeah, yeah. So yeah, we just have like really great people in there. Was it um yeah. I am so bad with names that even the people that like I talk to every day, like I can't remember their last names. I always have to like go by their handles or whatever. But yeah, like yeah, Anthony AJC Web Dev on Twitter, and Ben Myers, Ben D Myers on Twitter. Like they've just really, like from day one, Michael G, like from day one, just kind of showed up, and we're really like driving stuff. So really great folks.
So it sounds at least like it started as a like a local community, despite being in Discord. Um, do you think that like so? What I'm kind of wondering is, what is it about this Discord where that makes people feel comfortable, or like you couldn't find in another platform? And I'm not asking you like a sales question. I just mean like, is there something that you can think of that, like, is it inherent or just kind of made people feel comfortable, other than like maybe there weren't jerks there?
Oh man,
But yeah,
that is a really tough question, because I can only answer that for myself, I think,
mm.
which is, to be really honest, like I'm kind of, I tend to be like fairly like, I don't know what the word is, but like asocial. Like I'm not antisocial, but like asocial. Like kind of like like I got my computer, I got the web, I got my family. Like what else do I need? And so the idea of community just kind of felt like work to me. And so for me, I had a really hard time diving into communities that already existed. And I don't think that that's a good thing. Like like um for a lot of reasons, right? Like maintaining kind of like the base culture of a community is way more work than just engaging in a community that already exists. And so in some ways I'm like kind of kicking myself when I'm like, oh, do we have something to like for people this week? And that is difficult. And so like, yeah, I don't know. I feel like there are probably many communities out there. Like Party Corgi is like awesome, and there's like really incredible people in there. Front End Horse, also amazing. Discord community. I'm trying to think of like other ones. There's so many of them, and I think that they're all like slightly different. And I know that a lot of people that hang out in ours hang out in bunches of them, and I don't know. I think that I guess to answer your question is, I don't think that, well, I think the people in this group are special. I think that there are equally special communities out there who are focusing like on kindness, curiosity, and just trying to be like good to each other and like foster like positive environments instead of kind of this, tech Twitter flame war experience that we're, regularly experiencing.
Yeah, Twitter's not a great place. At least tech Twitter's not. Well, no, I'll stick with that. Twitter's not a great place, especially if you're looking for just overall positivity. Although
Yeah.
honestly, I mean, I haven't personally. I don't wade in. The only time I ever really get yelled at from the internet, which I'm not. If you're listening to this, I'm not inviting it. So, so try not to do that. But I find that the programming subreddit is probably the harshest for just general. Like if our content makes it on our programming, like I know I'm going to get it, unless it's perfect, which I don't really feel terrible about. You know what I mean? Like but the one thing that, after giving it some thought, between like, I think there are some parallels between the different, or the number of communities out there, or even, let's just say communities that are in Discord. Um, that leaves out. I actually don't know. Is there a Discord aspect for Dev two?
Oh,
Does
it's a good
anyone know?
question.
Am
I
I
don't
supposed
know.
to say Dev dot two or Dev two? Is there? Could someone help me out with that? I don't know yet. I've heard it both ways.
I also want to know because I always say Dev 2.
Yeah, that's what makes sense to me. But I've heard both. If you represent Dev two or Dev dot two, please tweet at one of us. Um, anyways, like what I'm saying though is you've got all these communities, and also you have all of these instructors and teachers.
Yeah.
And one of the first things that I asked Jessica Chan when she was on a while ago, well, she's been on twice, but like a while ago, was like, what do you think about all of these different, like, is there room for all of these kind of instructors? And she was like, well, not every instructor is for every person. So like there's
Yeah.
enough, and I think that's probably true for communities as well. Like each community, you can kind of find your own little niche. Am I making sense?
Yeah, no, I think that makes a lot of sense, and I think that as a like participant or like kind of more on that consumer side of community, like having more of them is great because you can kind of pick and choose like you know as it makes sense for you. And I think that so much of content is going into like variety education or like variety content, right? So you have a show and it's less about like like a topic. I mean, I experienced this with React Podcast, right? It was like I produced about like 6 episodes of React Podcast where we talked about React until I was like, this is boring for me. And it turned into more like just kind of like a holistic like type of like front end thing. And I feel like that variety is really important if you can kind of let go of the fact that like someone's going to listen to like every episode of your show. um, I think that more shows are going that direction of like, what, how can we learn from the experts in our field, and like we don't have to get it like perfect. And I think that is the differentiator for communities that are going to like move forward like in the next like 5 years, and those that are going to like fizzle out, is that I think that there is a huge motion toward like community styles of like working and learning together. And I think that's just gonna like carry on. Like, the way that we program, like, so many of the conversations that we have, in the, lunch dev Discord is like people are doing their job like on the fly, and they're like asking their trusted friends, like, oh, hey, like, I'm in a Discord with, so and so who, does, Redux, like, Matt Sikowski is someone that I always just hit up, part of the, Redux core team. And just so many people are like, hey, Matt, I have a like Redux question. And that part of thing, like that community working together is going to just, I mean, it's just, I feel like it's just going to like take off, like so like I don't even know what I'm saying. Collaborative work, I think, in so many ways, like that whole space is just going to like totally change. And I'm really excited to be part of that and seeing people be open about the things that they don't know, because that's the thing
Yeah.
that I want, is like I want people to be like, hey, I know that I should know this as like a 15-year engineer, but I don't. Like, can someone explain it to me like I'm 5? And then have other people who are like just starting see like, oh, that is someone that I would expect to know everything, and they're being like humble and honest about not knowing this thing, and that makes me feel like, oh, I've only known it for 6 months, but I know more than they do on this thing. And like that sharing of knowledge from like any place in your career is just really the most beautiful thing. But like everyone has to get over like whether it's your imposter syndrome or like the fact that you feel like you earned it and like get to tell everyone what to do all the time, like whatever it is, like kind of putting that aside for a minute and just being open to learning from each other is like I'm obsessed with it.
There is something very very freeing about getting to the point, either personally or in your career, where it's just, it's so much more, and this is my own soapbox, but like, it's so much more work to keep up appearances and pretend that you're an expert, or rather that you could still be an expert and not know everything, right? But like, create this image where it would be deeply disappointing, or at least you believe it would be deeply disappointing to admit that you are not omnipotent. And it's very liberating to be like, I don't know how to do this. Like it feels like, and then also, once you say that, other people are like, yeah, I don't really know how to do that either, or I do, but I don't know how to do this. And I think, yeah, I mean, I that's one of the things that I've actually always really liked about creating content for web devs, or just kind of technical people in general, is that um, if we publish a blog post that's imperfect, like the author makes a mistake, or then we, more often than not, we get a comment that's just like, hey, there's a typo here, or like, I think you just missed this. Nobody's in the comments most of the time being like, man, you're an idiot. It's like, well, you're the one reading. You're the one reading the tutorial, and I don't know how to do it. Like, so, like, so yeah, there are some things like that.
Oh yeah, that reminds me of something. Dan Abramov said, and I think it was people talking about. I don't know. There was a conversation I think happening about accents in tech, and it happens a lot. A lot of Western developers expect everything to be delivered in a perfect Western accent, or like American accent, and um, you know, he said something interesting, which is like, like when I speak in English, like I'm doing it for you, right? Like, and that's a really profound kind of concept, right? Like, he's already going above and beyond to try to make that content accessible for us. And like the fact that like we just like sit around and just like nitpick about all of these like minor little things is just really that's not our best, right? We're not at our best when we're doing that. And yeah, I don't know. I joke sometimes that like I gave this talk about like 3 years ago called Hot Garbage, Clean Code is Dead. And it was kind of like I don't know, you have to watch the talk in order for it to all make sense. But like it was really about me coming to grips with the fact that like after, I don't know, like 13 or so years in this industry, I was now the person who was kind of like a jerk because like I thought I knew stuff and I needed to get over that. Like, and so now I just kind of, joke that like my job is just to like fall on my face in public and like let people teach me stuff. And I love doing that. And I don't know, I feel like the better we all get at that, and like the more we can just be secure with knowing that like it takes all of us to do good work. We're just all better off for it.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like now's the time to. It's got really wholesome. Really quickly. Let's go the other way for a second. And
yeah. Let's just burn some stuff.
I actually don't know how you feel about this, because I don't know how I feel about it either. Do you think that there is a place for we'll call them corporate communities? Like,
interesting.
Like, what if? And I really haven't thought about this at all. But like, what if, say, LogRocket were to start a Discord and attempt a community? Like, is that something that could happen or should happen? Or I don't really know where it would fit in the ecosystem at all.
Yeah, it is interesting. Like I think that there are a lot of people doing that. Like we just saw, Next has a Discord. I work at Storybook, or Chromatic, who maintains and leads Storybook. And we have a Storybook Discord for that. Supabase has a pretty thriving Discord. There's tons of Discords for like products specifically, and I think there's a lot of space for that, for sure. I think like kind of how you build the community? Like, do you see that as just like an outlet, or do you see it as like an ingress point for like, bringing people in and like supporting that community? That's the part that's kind of like really questionable.
Oh, for sure. And I think that like in some of those cases, like, um, I mean, if the product is open source, then you've got goodwill on your side to begin
Right.
with.
Yep.
But if you're like a straight up for profit enterprise, yeah, I mean, of course, people are going to be suspicious. Like, if I join this, is like a salesperson going to call me at some point? Um, and I don't blame
Yeah.
them for thinking that. I mean, I do think, and I talk about this occasionally, that I do think it's funny, like when, let's say one of our posts or someone gets to the front page of Hacker News, and someone will be like, LogRocket is blatantly engaging in content marketing, and it's like, yeah, that's true, that's what we're doing. We do have to, like, we're giving you free stuff. Hopefully you like it and that the quality is good. But yeah, I mean, the idea here is for you to like us, and then at the very least, at some point when the time comes, you can look at the product and see if it works for you or not. I don't know that a community has to be is well, now I'm just drifting into like just straight up marketing talk, but it has to be way further up. Like, there should be community managers who actively fight against that and say, we could run, like hackathons or like challenges. And that might be one way to build goodwill, but like at no time should you be like, and hey, we launched a new feature that you definitely don't care about right now because that's not on the top of your mind. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's tricky because I feel like communities kind of take on a life of their own, and you
Yep.
kind of like, if you start it, you kind of have to be along for the ride. Like, because that's like people. I don't know if I can say this, but people call bullshit fast in communities, and so they either leave or they call you out, and everybody leaves as a group. And so you kind of have to, yeah, I don't know, like you kind of have to start that vision, but like, you never know where it's going to go. And I think that's probably like the coolest part of it, is like just seeing like people come in and kind of like take ownership of it. And, like I have to call out Adrienne Mallet, who is part of one of the moderators in the Lunch Tip Discord. And she is just always just going above and beyond to make sure that we understand the importance of doing things in an accessible way. So like, alt text for images and like all that kind of stuff. And that has been a huge learning opportunity for me to do that. And like, yes, do I see it as like a real big pain in the butt to like, add all of that like alt text and like a big wall of alt text for like, an image or whatever? Like, yeah, every time I'm like, oh man. But then I always think like, what would Adrian think if I didn't do this? And that like that community pressure to like do better and do the right thing is like, is challenging and rewarding. And I feel like if you're up for the journey of learning from your community, then there's nothing better, right? Like if you can as a company be like, we're going to learn, then I think that, yeah, like do it. But if you're like, we're going to enforce the way that we think about the world, like on a community, like it's never going to happen. People are just going to like call it out like right away. And then you just kind of have a glorified, blog, right? Like you can just post stuff to a blog and it's a lot less work than having to, maintain a community to just post stuff somewhere else.
The blogs are so dumb, and what are they? No, I agree with you. Like I do, and I still don't have an answer on whether or not people would accept a community. I mean, you have to earn it, right? Like you have to earn some trust, and that's true. And so once you've done that, then you actually have to foster regular community stuff. And at no time can you treat it like a source for leads, like, which is
yeah,
sometimes you know what I mean? Like that would be a horrible idea, and you'd never come back from it either. Like nobody would ever trust you, and maybe rightfully so. Like it's like, I'm good.
Yeah, you have to be really careful on that front. I've been really reticent to Like I know a number of communities will kind of like subscribe you to a newsletter. Like I think with the best intentions, like as
Yeah.
you sign up for the Discord, um, but it's like it's tricky. Like it's a balance, right? Because you don't want to feel like a product. Like you want to feel like community, and there's a lot of it's definitely I don't know. I would never profess to say that I know much about it at all, except for what I'm learning from the people around me.
No, I don't know that. Like I said, I don't know the answer either. What I do know is like, okay, so there are a bunch of open source tools, and um, they have discords, and those are communities, and eventually, in many cases, like those, especially the ones that have taken funding, like they're going to monetize at some point. So
Yeah,
then what happens?
yeah,
Um, I'm not passing judgment. I don't think that I'm in a position where I can do that, right? Like that's I work at a company that looks to make money. So that's, you know what I
yeah,
mean? Like it's,
yeah,
um, but I do think that even for, people who don't work at a company and moderate a community, well, you know what I'm saying? The company is not sponsoring the community.
hmm
They still feel weird about sponsorships, kind of like in the same way that like YouTube creators are like, I don't know if I definitely want to take ads.
yeah, yeah. Because it's tricky. You really have to present like what the value is to the community, right?
Yeah.
Like you need to provide enough value to the community to justify the take that you're making. And
Yeah.
that's always kind of like a weird thing. And you see it like, you see it on the interesting thing to me though is that like a lot of people like are very eager to like support that value, right? Like you see a lot of people like I've been blown away. Like I didn't really understand Twitch until this year. I still don't understand it, but the Twitch is really fascinating because money flies around that platform. Like it is bewildering to me. Like if you told me there's a place where people just like get on and they talk about stuff and then people throw money at them, I'd be like, yeah, that place doesn't exist. Yeah, it absolutely does on Twitch, and people are making like tons of money, and people are absolutely like like take my money like about it, and like that blows me away. And I feel like they're doing something right to like that's the thing that's like really fascinating to me is like content creators like they right now are figuring out ways to like have people just be really excited about what's happening, like community, like having someone listen to them like from the other side of the world. And that it's something we're all hungry for. And I don't know, we're just at the beginning of it, with more and more jobs going remote and people being further displaced from people who understand them, share their interests, share their like work experience. And yeah, we're creating all of these new digital neighborhoods, and it's really fun to see in real time.
Did you make that up? Digital neighborhoods? You,
I don't know. I'd say it from time to time. I'm sure that someone else incepted that into my head.
well, I like it. So we'll just, for our purposes, we'll say that you made it up.
I made it up for this podcast episode. Yeah.
Okay, so my last question for you is something that I've asked other folks and something I've thought about a lot. Is the kind of the complexity of the front end landscape, but then also kind of the big or the popular frameworks, right? And so now there used to be the big three, right? And now it's the big
Yeah.
four. We include Svelte.
Yep.
When does it end? When is it the big five? Is it the big six? It has become the accounting firms, which is the big four, right? Big four, yeah.
The big four. Yeah. Yeah. That is an exciting thing that I am like, I'm excited that we're going to be here for it in real time to see how that plays out.
Hmm.
I it's really tricky. I think that I have had really mixed feelings about this, like specifically in the last year, as I've seen Svelte do a lot of things that I kind of was happy that React didn't do. And so there's I feel very like fractured in my brain because it's like, oh, I love the fact that React is, like as they famously say, like it's just JavaScript, right? Like I have learned more about JavaScript as a React developer than I have at any other point, like in my learning of JavaScript. That was a really awkward way to say that, but I think that it makes sense. And so with something like Svelte, like that kind of goes away a little bit, right? Like it's very much less true in Svelte that like learning Svelte would make you a better JavaScript developer because like it makes you a better Svelte developer. And yeah, there's going to be a lot of opportunities to write, better JavaScript and better TypeScript inside of a Svelte app, but it doesn't demand it in the same way that React does. And so I don't know. There's something very interesting happening there, and I'm super excited about it. I think that, those of us that have been programming for the last, I don't know, like what, 12, 15 years, like kind of believe that adage of like, always bet on JavaScript, but like maybe not anymore. Maybe it's like not true in the future, is that everything is just like compiled to JavaScript.
How would you know? Like, how would you know, like when, and I don't expect you to have an actual answer for this, but like, how do you know when it gets to the point where like, it's maybe not, maybe everything's compiled? Is it just when adoption goes through the roof and that's just kind of becomes the de facto standard?
Yeah, I don't know, but it's there's some interesting things happening though, right? Like, like so much, like why is there so much attention on Rust in the front end space, right? Like so many things are getting rebuilt in Rust, right? And then, we have like TypeScript is just like dominating right now. Like it's just absolutely amazing, the ascent of TypeScript. And then also we have, there's so much interest in Svelte, which is its own freaking thing, right? Like it supports TypeScript, but it's like, it's a different thing entirely, right? Like you're writing Svelte.
Yeah.
And so like what's happening, right? Like all the, for all of our talk about, like always bet on JavaScript, there's a lot of people not betting on JavaScript right now in the front end space. And that's fascinating to me.
I personally, we noticed that, and we started creating, Rust tutorials because I think that there was a dearth of resources outside of the official kind of like book on how I want to learn Rust. I don't really know where to go. And then I would see our posts make it to the Rust subreddit, and they were, they did well. Like fortunately, and I've said this a billion times, but like, Rust community is very passionate, and like if you make a little mistake, you're for sure going to hear about it, and that's totally cool with me. But I did notice a bunch of times, like a lot of comments, like, LogRocket is doing this. They have nothing to do with Rust. So why are they doing that? And then there was like, well, it's because there's this huge interest in it from the front end, and that's what they're doing. But it was it's interesting to see them figure it out. Be like, why are all of these front end folks just kind of turning up?
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, they're smart people. They figured it out really quickly. So yeah, I mean, it's just, it's very interesting.
Something's happening, and I have no idea where to begin, like, understanding where, but yeah, it's like where it's going. But it's something that I'm very excited about because I think that there are a lot of gains to be had there, and we're not quite. I feel like some people see it, not everybody does, but it does feel like, in some ways, like the future is not going to be writing JavaScript, which is weird for me because I always prefer to bet on standards, right? Like I had like a brief stint, 6 years ago now, where I was like, oh yeah, CSS and JS is like awesome. And then I was like, oh no, actually, like as soon as I had to like style like parts of our applications that existed in like, two types of frameworks, I was like, oh no, like this absolutely does not work like across those framework boundaries. I was like, standards, but like, I don't know, JavaScript. Like I just never thought that anything would come for it, but Rust and TypeScript are definitely on its heels.
If you have thoughts about what Michael just said, you should go to the Lunch Discord and tell him why he's wrong.
But kindly and curiously.
Yes, kindly and curiously, and why you believe, and be open to feedback on why you yourself might be mistaken. Or, leave a comment and when this is on YouTube, and you'll hear. Actually, we get really nice comments, so whatever.
Good. Good. I'm happy to hear that.
Yeah. I don't know. People are nice for the most part.
Yeah.
At least, no, I'm sticking with that. This has been a very positive episode. I'm sticking with people are nice for the most part.
If you treat them with respect and give them attention, I feel like, everyone has kindness in them.
That's really good advice. That's a great place to stop, I think. This is usually the portion of the podcast where I ask, would you like to plug anything? Is there anything people you think deserve more attention? Now is your time.
Yeah. So I mentioned a handful of people in the Discord. I think that, if you were to, if you felt so inclined to join our Discord, you would see these people, right away, they're constantly, producing a lot of really good stuff. As I'd mentioned, Anthony's doing FS Jam podcast, which has a lot of really great episodes. And then Ben Myers is doing the Some Antics Dev Twitch stream and blogs at Ben D. Myers. A lot of really killer accessibility stuff. I think those are, two people who are like, I don't know. I just want to pitch them anytime I can. And I'm sure that I'm, forgetting people, and, for that I am sorry. Lindsay Wardell is doing Views on View. Really great stuff. I mean, if you want to meet all these people, again, it's discord.gg/lunchdev. Just come hang out with us, teach us what you know, learn from some really awesome people. That's really all I have to pitch, is just the great people that I'm surrounded by.
We'll put all of their links in the description for this, so that like if there's Twitter, or we'll just put the lunch link and just walk in and be like, I'm interested in meeting everybody. Those can be your options too. Great. Listen, awesome. I enjoyed this a lot. So thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me. This has been an absolute pleasure, and I'm a big fan of what y'all are doing. So, keep doing it. If you're so inclined, make that community. I think a lot of people would show up, and you'll learn a ton.
Okay. But if I get yelled at for being a corporate community, I'd be like, listen, we were told by people with more credibility than us that it would be cool. So, all right. A pleasure, Michael. We'll talk later.
Yeah. Next time.
See ya.